All right, sweet. It's your first podcast.
All right, hey everyone. I guess we're doing our first podcast. We're gonna give it a go and try to see how it turns out.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So we have a list of topics here that we curated earlier, and we'll see if I can hit them all. We have about 25 minutes here, and we'll just get going.
Yeah, it's super casual.
Super
like
casual.
conversation.
It's just a test, right?
Have
It's our
some bubble tea.
first podcast.
All right, so I want to ask you this: do you know your why for what you're doing?
I think that's something that you have to work towards throughout your whole life. And I feel like the people that have found their ikigai, you know, the
Oh yeah, I know
ikigai,
that. Yeah.
those people are either blessed or
Right.
they've spent a long time
Right.
working on that. And I think right now I don't think I have that
Yeah.
clear why. I just know what I was doing, which is
Right.
working corporate, was
Right.
not working.
Right.
How about you?
I think people's whys change over time, and it's natural. In life, everything changes, and that's just the way it is. For me, I remember my why was so much different from my why now in just over a couple of years. But my why now is to live a life that is different from what a lot of people would consider a normal life. Like, I don't want to be living in a house in a city for a long period of time. I want to be on the road. I want to maximize the things I get to see in my life while I still have my life.
Mhm.
And so so everything I'm doing now basically branches out from that, which is I need a lifestyle where I can move around, experience new things, and I'm creating things that can help support that why for myself. Yeah. And here's the interesting thing though. I see for a lot of people, their whys, like their ikigai, let's say,
Mhm.
and their reason for why they're doing things and their passion, it's in an area that doesn't pay well, right? So for a lot of
Very
people,
common.
it's very common, right? So a lot of people, maybe they're like painting. It's very difficult to make a good amount of money sustainably with painting. But for some people, they love technology, they love coding, and the market for that is ludicrous.
Mhm.
So how do you cope with something like that? If you were unfortunately not blessed with a passion that can pay you a lot of money, you know?
I think one way to think about that is you have your core passion, and then there are other skills that will make you money. For example, painting. You might love painting,
Right.
and that's your main thing. But what you can do
Oh, gosh.
maybe is you can build content around that, right? Like
True.
using something like school where
Right.
you're providing value. Okay, this is
Right.
painting. I do this, and then people kind of gravitate towards that, and then you
Right.
can kind of build a business around your painting,
Right.
where you're not selling the painting, you're really selling your brand, your passion, and people will kind of gravitate towards that. That's one way
Yeah.
to
So
do it.
basically, you kind of have to pick up skills that
You have to pick
might
up
not
additional
wanna,
skills,
You might
yeah.
not want to do.
Mhm.
In
Or
order
you can
to
outsource
make it
them.
work.
You can outsource them too.
Yep. You can outsource them too. So,
Okay, should we go to our next one?
let's see. Oh, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. You've been going through some of that, right? Like you had a high, like in the beginning. And usually people do when they first start something.
Yes.
It's very intense. It's very new. It's like very novel. So many things you can do. You kind of daydream about the possibilities, and then kind of reality hits you, and then you're like, oh shit, it's a lot harder than I thought. Maybe stuff like that. Have you been going through some of that?
Definitely. There are days where I question myself, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I've been applying to jobs again, right? And I think what everyone tells me that is it's very normal, not talking about like a month, even like a day. You can wake up and feeling like you're great and then end the day feeling like you've done nothing. That happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the key here is to just be consistent and put in even just a little bit every day.
Right.
That's basically all we can do because we're not robots.
Yeah.
Like Alex Hormozy, not everyone can be like him.
No,
or
he's
work
just a
as his
machine,
passion,
just
right?
a monster.
And obviously, there's also that financial aspect
Right.
of if you need money now, your hand is more forced.
Right. Yep.
Whereas if you're a little bit more, let's say, financially secure, you can take a little bit of time to explore.
Right. All right, we're rolling again. We just have
Okay.
to shift the camera angle.
Okay, our next topic is how to be productive for a long time. It's key.
How to be productive for a long time. Okay, I think the key here is sustainability. How can you work in a sustainable way? I got some ideas developed from my own experiences I could share. I don't know about you. Anything you want to share?
I think for me, I was reading this book, Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. And in it talked about three main buckets. There's the play, which is to make your work just a little bit more fun, kind of designing it like a video game, make it 10% more fun. And then there is power, which is ownership of whatever you're doing, which I think for us, we've got that, right?
Right.
We're not working for someone else when we're recording this podcast. We're doing it because we want to do it. So we own this project.
Right. It's easy to do because we're like driven by our internal
Exactly.
forces.
And then there's people like us two, right? Like we're able to meet up here in Vancouver and kind of connect and feel like we are both on the same journey and building a community that way.
Right. Let me go back to what I was talking about earlier about ways to keep it sustainable. You definitely, over time, you start to get more sensitivity on yourself. You can tell when you have a lot of energy. You can tell when you have less energy. And on the days where you feel like you have a little bit less energy, you have to ask yourself, is it more worthwhile for me to take a break now so that the next day I can come back harder? Or I grind through today, get some lower level of output, and tomorrow probably also not feel as great. You have to, over time, you realize that actually it might be better if you take a day to recharge and come back the next day like sprinting, running, ready. So finding ways to recharge yourself and being good at resting is like on the same coin as working hard, to be honest. Finding ways to rest and recharge and being good at it, dude, that is key to productivity over the long term.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about the write-off effect, which is, let's say you plan something. Let's say there's 4 items you're supposed to hit today. You didn't hit item 1, you're like, oh, I'm just going to write off today because I failed already. Versus like, okay, I didn't hit item 1, I'll do item 2, and at least I did something today, so I keep that momentum, or I just write off the day. Because a lot of people, like me, for example, is I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit these 4 items. I didn't hit item 1. Okay, today's a failure. I'm just done. I'm not going to do anything.
Okay, so what is that called?
Like the write-off effect.
Write-off effect.
Yeah.
Okay, and so basically there's 2 options. Like one is you write off the whole day.
Write off the whole day because you failed.
Usually
like one of it.
Okay.
One part of it, or you like at least do something just to have a little bit.
Okay, I think this comes with experience, knowing what the optimal answer is. Because if you literally feel like shit, and if you know that if you were to continue to do like items 2, 3, and 4, but out of like 10% like output level, then just spend that whole day, write off that whole day, and go to your like best known method for recharging. You know, maybe he's going for a run, watching your favorite movie, meeting with friends, doing nothing, smoking some weed. If you know, just like practices that you know are sustainable and work for you. So I'd say write it off. Yeah, that's my take on that.
Okay, let's go to our next topic: the importance of iteration and how to know when you're stagnating.
Yes.
I think for me, I have this problem of not wanting to take something down and rebuild it. So I always want to plan out everything and then make it so that I only have to do it once.
Right.
But it just doesn't work that way. You have to start with like a shitty product or a shitty process.
Yeah.
And then at some point you're gonna have to take it all down and then rebuild.
Right. Of course,
that's just something you have to accept.
Especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And especially when you're starting out, the stakes are usually low, and so you're supposed to do that. Iteration is important because being a perfectionist holds you back so much. For me, for example, getting my first video out was so hard because I had this it had to be perfect. And I would go in and fix like individual frames even to make sure it was perfect. And something I learned through that process of spending so much unnecessary time on my first video was that, well, first of all, not many people watch it. And second of all, you learn so much by just doing it. And your next video is going to be better. Your first video isn't meant to be good.
Yeah, that's very common, right? Like fail fast, just go, bias to action versus analysis paralysis.
Bias to action. That's a good one. I haven't heard that before.
Bias to action, and then how, or now, not how.
Now, not how. Oh, interesting. I like that one too.
Yeah, that one is from the book $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan.
Right.
Where he talked about So I actually tried this. He talked about like go to a store, order a coffee, and ask for 10% discount.
Right.
And immediately when I heard that, I'm like, oh, I'll do that like next week.
Right.
And I caught myself thinking that way. So I'm like, nope, I'm just going to do it now. And then I just did it. And then I lived. I didn't die. I got some stairs, like whatever, man.
Right. No, that's amazing. That's really good. Like, now, not how. I like that because I think as time goes on, you realize a lot of people, they like to set goals or set like milestones or set changes for themselves, in their behaviors, but they always push it off, right? One of the best things that like you could do is the moment you identify a change that needs to happen, you implement it right away.
I think Hormozy talked about this too.
Oh, yeah?
The most successful people are the ones who have a thought and and the execution time is the short.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have a thought, they execute immediately. Whereas
Like,
I would like record it down, be like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow.
Right.
And then like tomorrow I might not even do it anymore.
I know what you mean. Because sometimes I'd have this thought, I'd be like, oh, this is such a good idea. And then I write it on my phone and it's gone.
It's just gone.
And I never look at it again. And I forget about it. So it's true. Like if somebody wants to start like a diet, it's like, okay, I'll start a diet when the moon aligns or the calendar starts at 1. Like no. Like if you really wanted it, you start it now. And if you like you said, if you take the time from when you want to do it and actually doing it, if you literally delete that and start now, you will become so much more powerful, so much more efficient.
Beating everyone, right? Like,
a lot of times, the amount of time you spent from point A to B thinking about how you're going to do it, blah blah blah, it's so uncomfortable. It actually like inhibits you.
That's also another thing, man.
You just jump right into it like a cold shower. Just go right into it. The more you think about it, the more it's going to hurt, right?
Exactly. It actually hurts, like thinking about, oh, I got to do this versus just doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's tough too because even though I know that concept, I still procrastinate.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I know this, I'm aware, I'm just gonna like be powerful now. No.
Yeah. Something that's journey, interesting is like I don't do cold showers now, but when I did it, that kind of helped because you're standing at the face of the shower and you're like, fuck, I don't want to walk inside the shower. But then you train this ability to say, you know what, I'm just gonna go into the discomfort. You know, it's like a binary decision. I'm gonna go in, and you just go in. And then after that cold shower, you're like, I did it. That was hard, but I did it. What else can I apply that to next? It's like maybe you're at work and then, oh, I have to call this client. I don't want to call this client. And then you just kind of like ramble in your thoughts about it. Mm-hmm. But then you apply that concept to that task. You just pick up the phone and do it just like that. Pain is gone. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to our next topic, which is...
All this inputs over results, systems versus goals.
Yeah, this one is tough because if you think about like a video game, why is video game addictive? You do something, you get immediate feedback or reward, right? Like you kill a monster, you get experience. You kill a monster, you get a drop, immediate. It shortens that time of doing something and getting a reward. Whereas if you're doing like entrepreneurship or anything that's like challenging, you can go days, you can go months, you can go years without seeing anything. Right? And that makes it difficult to like realize that you're actually progressing because it's not very clear.
Something related to systems versus goals, I find people like to set goals and work towards them, and they usually ramp up the amount of work they have to do right before it's due, and then they're done and they burn out. Versus a system, which is something you simply do each day because it's a habit, it's who you are, and the results, the goals, they get developed and they come out as a result of your systems. So if somebody wants to, for example, like have a clean kitchen, at the end of the week, they're like, oh, I must have a clean kitchen. I'm going to clean my kitchen all right now. And then the next day it gets dirty again, and then it keeps happening. But if somebody has a system in place, which is every time I cook, I don't leave any dirty dishes on the countertop, goes in the sink. That's a system in place that guarantees you the goal of a clean kitchen. So in regards to system versus goals, systems is like more sustainable. It's better for the long run.
Yeah, it's kind of breaking up like a hard task into smaller pieces versus tackling a mountain, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's better for you mentally too, because then you're feeling like every day you're progressing. Like
the amount of input you put in versus the amount of results you see, usually it's like 100 to 0. Like usually it's like you put a lot of work in, and sometimes you get like 0 results out of it.
Or you don't get any results until like a break-even point, and then it goes exponential. Like take the video game example: you kill a monster, you get drop immediately, you get experience immediately.
That's like instant gratification.
Yeah. What if you have to kill 80 monsters before you see any experience?
Or what if it's like you have to kill 80 monsters, and at some arbitrary point you'll get the loot?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's gonna do that?
Yeah,
that's tough. But that's how life works.
What's next? How much is enough? Wow, this one hits close to home.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because every day it's easy to beat yourself up over like, oh, I could have done more. I could have been more productive, and I'm not doing my best, and it's easy to get into that downward spiral. But I think really, especially when you're comparing with other people, right? It's like, oh, this guy is able to like work 12 hours. How come I can only work like 5 or 6 or whatever? And I think something that helped me a little bit is look at myself. I'm only comparing with me yesterday.
Yes.
Was I better than yesterday? And if the answer is yes, even if I only work 1 hour a day, so what? I was better than yesterday, right? And I think that's the key here is to just improve every day and not worry about what is enough, you know?
I don't really know because this is something I struggle with quite a bit.
I still struggle with it too.
Yeah. Because I very rarely feel a sense of accomplishment. I would go maybe like one day I would work 12 hours, get a lot done, and I would still feel like I could have gotten a bit more done. There's always more. It's hard to feel gratitude for the things you've done. And I don't know the answer to this. And I think over time, we both will have a better insight into this question.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, because we'll have to be more sustainable. The way we do it now is maybe not so sustainable because we do a lot, but we feel like we haven't. And that kind of burns us out. Right?
Yeah, and it's like the hour thing too. It's like, why is this guy putting 12 hours, but I can only do 4? Like, am I broken? Like, is there something wrong with my brain?
Right.
But then, like, everyone else is telling me, hey, Peter, you're doing a good job, man. Like, your posts are cool, provides value. And I'm like, wait, but that only took me like an hour to do. What are you talking about? I did nothing.
Right.
I'm a failure, right? But like, yeah, it's tough, man. This is like a road that will take a long time to figure out.
Yeah. And I think we'll both walk down this path and we'll both come out with different answers maybe. Or maybe the same answer. But until then, I think we got 2 minutes of recording time left.
Yeah, maybe we can hit one more, making time to read. I think that's just a habit. And I think reading, learning, making time every day to learn and read is necessary. It's not like a nice to have. It's like literally you need to do that, I think.
There's always things that we need to learn if we want to take the next step forward.
Exactly.
One thing I do is that if I'm on a train or if I'm eating a meal and I have a little bit of downtime, I like to pull up a video that's educational that can help move me forward. I like to fill up my dead time with useful, productive content. So curating your media, curating even your social media, like if you're on social media and the content on there, you can curate it.
Well, that was our first podcast. I think it went pretty well considering this.
I've never done a podcast before. That was kind of
test. I think we've hit a lot of topics. We weren't able to go too deep because we only have 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But I hope we can do this with regular cadence, maybe once a month or something like that, and dig a little bit deeper into each of these topics.
Yeah. And maybe share more information from what we've learned since last time.
Exactly. Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be good.
And it's nice to one day look back on this and see how far we've come.
Yeah. Maybe in 5 years we'll look back and then be like, wow, we were like,
just amateurs, just kids. What are we talking about? But
that's
until
part
then,
of it, though.
Until then. All right.
Okay.
We're out.
Nice,
man. Good stuff, man. That was interesting.
I like how we were talking about this and we actually did it. It's like the execution time and like the